As former Deputy National Security Advisor, KT McFarland. What was your reaction when you heard that China's BGI Group selling these popular prenatal tests that pregnant women use, that they've been sharing the women's DNA with China's military and China's intelligence services? Your reaction to this story?
The pieces of the puzzle are starting to come together, and it's not a pretty picture. You remember a year or so ago when there were major data hacks of pharmaceutical companies and healthcare companies, American healthcare companies? We weren't quite sure, why would the Chinese want to hack that? Well, add to that the kind of research they were doing at the Wuhan lab, where we know that they were working on genetic sequencing, genetically modifying viruses to make them more lethal and more virulent and more contagious. A part of this, there's a legitimate explanation, which is China looks at the future, it looks at the 10 technologies of the future, and has said they want to dominate all of these technologies. It's things like artificial intelligence, microprocessing, but also it's bioengineering, biopharmaceuticals. And what they're doing, Liz, is they're, in the good old days, you would have laboratories where scientists would come up with vaccines, or they would come up with medication, and then they would do trial tests first on guinea pigs and rats, and then eventually on people. This is putting it in the other direction. They're taking the DNA information, unbeknownst to the people who are handing it over, and they're using that DNA to then create, presumably, medication, but maybe there's something. I worry that there's something more sinister going on, that they're looking at the DNA.
Yeah, that's what Reuters is reporting.
Finding cures. Yeah.
That's what Reuters is reporting, that they could be developing bioweapons. U.S. National Counterintelligence and Security Center's warning. Yeah, they're putting out a warning. Women, don't use this prenatal test from China's BGI Group, because they're just giving the DNA and genetic data to China's military and intelligence. BGI stands for Beijing Genomics Institute. Two of its units, KT, two subsidiaries are on the Commerce Department blacklist because they've been involved in mass atrocities targeting ethnic minorities like the Muslim Uyghurs. So this is what this company has been involved in. It's much more. This is just tip of the iceberg stuff. Your final word on that?
Yeah. Yeah, tip of the iceberg, and where does it go from here? One of the things that the senior Chinese leadership have talked about when they've talked about the Uyghurs in the concentration camps is they say things like, well, there are too many of them. They're a much higher percentage of the population than they should be. They're reproducing more quickly. This is getting into a very scary territory, Liz.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, KT, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back on again soon. It's good to see you. KT McFarland.
Thanks, Liz.